So now I'd like to talk about where do you find your source of support? And I think our audience has been actively waiting for this. What strategies do you use to maintain your spirit and take care of you? So where have you found some resources, and what do you find as rewarding aspects of being a caregiver? And who would like to go first? I'm going to give a choice now.
Ooh.
Joe, would you like to go first?
Sure, I can go first. That way I get this done, and I'm the first one, and I can relax a little bit. We'll let Peter carry the rest, and Lyle can follow on. Um, as I mentioned before, I get a lot of emotional support from my family. They are, for the most part, distributed across North America. I have four brothers in four different states in the United States. Amy's one daughter is in Ontario, the other one is here, which is very nice, and her sister is in Vancouver, so that's also very nice. And we use things like this, like Zoom, as one of our biggest tools. We talk, as soon as I'm done with this, I will join my brothers who will be having a conversation starting at 3 o'clock, and we do this once a week. This all started because my mom had become bedridden, and COVID came, and no one could get to the house to help her anymore. So we had to kind of coordinate things, which we started doing once a week. We've been doing it ever since then because it keeps the family together and just good sharing. We do the same with Amy's family. Talk to her sister, some of her nieces, her daughters, her grandson, once a week. And that's a good thing. So it's not as good as being with somebody, but it's a lot better than not being there at all. So we do that a lot.
And have you
And
used any support services from the Alzheimer's Society to
oh,
help you along your journey?
that's my next little topic here is that it is because of the Alzheimer's Society that we have a good situation, I think, here in Victoria. After Amy was diagnosed, we were given a flyer, and we called up the society, and we went to the Shaping the Journey class with about 5 other couples. That's a couples class. And the class was interesting. It taught us a little bit about Alzheimer's, but what it really taught us was that there's others. There's other people out there going through this same thing, and they come from all walks of life. They've lived hard lives, or they've lived good lives, they've lived bad lives, but they've all got the same thing. It doesn't matter who you are. So from that initial bit, we each belong to another group from the Alzheimer's Society, one for caregivers, one for people suffering with dementia. And those are very useful, very helpful. Those are brilliant when it comes to trying to figure out how to work this system that is in place in BC, how you get help, how you get support, what's coming next, what's available, because you're in a group with people who are a little farther down the road than you and a little less far down the road than you, and they share. And you learn from the older ones, and you teach the younger ones. It's a good process. And we also we go to what is called a coffee and chat group, which has been a lifesaver. We've made good friends, and everyone is a couple. Not one is. They're not all married couples, but they're all partners or couples or siblings that take part in this, or parts of a family. And it's a great thing. We get together every week, and there is no agenda other than to enjoy the time and to talk to each other and to leave feeling better. So yeah, I think I'm here because the Alzheimer's Society helped me get here. And I think I'm able to do this because they helped me get there. So I'm a big fan.
I would wholeheartedly agree with you, Joe, as somebody who was at the end of my rope, literally, figuratively, everything, um, and felt like I was staring down the barrel of doom and gloom, making that first call, and just having somebody listen on the other end of the line while I cried and railed at the world and, you know, got all of my stuff out was amazing for me. And I too, it then led to further resources, them calling and checking in on me and offering other resources and joining support groups. And you're right, Joe, learning from people who had the journey and been further along, or people who, even people who didn't have the same journey as me, like they were dealing with a loved one that was, their spouse, and I'm dealing with my dad, like people who have families close and people who don't. All of those things, building that community was really key for me being able to survive through this whole experience. And there are times where I still go back to that community. And I think that speaks a lot to Peter's point and to your point, Joe, and even Lyle, about just being human. You know, somebody's having a bad day, allow them the space to listen, right? So Peter and Naylene, I would love for you to answer the question. And I know you have tons of rewarding aspects of being a caregiver too. So
I should say my sister texted me. She got pulled away from being here with us. So she just wanted to say to everyone, thank you for sharing this space with us and thank you for listening. Um, and she didn't want to go, but she had to deal with the work thing. I think that part of my answer, or part of just the live, I mean, what is an answer? It's just living. We're trying to live. This has been hard, you know. This is hard for them, hard for her, hard for our loved ones. It's hard for us. It was very, isolating. Uh, we and there was nobody, like, as an Indigenous family, especially, there is a need to have a healthy distrust of systems and organizations, and because it's not always safe. It's not always safe to go into a building, you know. Um, and we knew the word Alzheimer's, so we did call the BC Alzheimer's Society, but there wasn't. It was so difficult. It was just so difficult for us. Not necessarily because of the society itself, but again, that those pieces about stigmas, you know. Uh, I think my sister Naylene was the one who called, or I called. I can't remember this. It's been an 11-year journey.
yeah.
Um, but I do know that, I lived in Victoria. I would go on the ferry once a month for a week to help dad take care of mom. The one day I was like, let's go try it out. Let's go to the Alzheimer's hangout, you know? And I had her in the car. We were in the car. We're driving to the place in Surrey. And eventually she said to me, please don't make me do this.
Mm.
I'm going to be the only native person there. And I don't want that. I don't want to be, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that. I don't want to be put in that uncomfortable situation and also have them look at me because I have Alzheimer's, you know? And so she that was it. That was it. There was no kind of turning back around from that, you know. And there's all these other things that we had to do, you know. We did a lot of research. Like all of us here, watched thousands of hours of YouTube things.
Yeah. I can't even believe how many hours of webinars and researchers and everything I've watched.
And as a way to, like, honor her transformation, but also as we're transforming with her, you know. Um, it wasn't until I stumbled upon this this YouTube channel called Molly and Me. And the son was taking his mom out. She's living with Alzheimer's, and he would make these videos, which then started turned into a Facebook group. And, I didn't even know there were Facebook groups, you know.
Yeah.
They and the majority of the time, like, we're talking about mom's kids, right? There are some community members who join us in this work with her. Um, but there was that isolation, like Lyle was talking about earlier, you know, not being invited, which also hurts, you know. And eventually, at some point, I had said to her, we're in the trailer in Smithers, and I had said to her, Mom, nobody in our community, Indigenous community, talks about this openly, publicly. Uh, are you okay with that? Are you okay with us making Facebook status updates?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we did that. We did that together. We started doing that together, and we would write it together. My mom is Indian Day school survivor and in intergenerational Indian residential school survivor. Uh, and we are too, like her kids, right? So we would work together, we would write those things together, and talking about the strength, right? And then post it, and then people would understand a bit more about what our experience is and was and continues to be, you know. And then that space of people talking back to us, you know. I never heard anybody ever say to me, "Oh, my parents have Alzheimer's," or "I know, my auntie has Alzheimer's." That never happened. I had to look for that, right? And I had to be
Mhm.
the person to open up that space and talk about the hard days. And, but on that those Facebook updates, people heard, people listened, you know, and then other Indigenous families would start to write personal messages to me, uh, you know, talking about where they could get resources or what. Those Facebook groups were incredible, and you could ask the question about the drugs, you
Yeah.
know, what does
Yeah.
this drug do?
Yeah.
What is your
Yeah.
experience of this drug?
Yeah.
Um, we are also a family who we're also a family who we paid attention to the details, and we learned not because we wanted to learn these systems, like all the times that they changed her drugs and never told us what the drugs did, and then eventually we started writing it down. And so I have people in my community who are care workers, and they would say to me, like my friend Ayumi said to me, write the drugs down,
Hmm.
right? Do the research on what they are, right? And then because Ayumi offered that to me, I started to offer it to other family members, like my Auntie Mary and their family. I said, you gotta write the name of the drugs down because they're not going to do it for you.
Yeah. I did find that as well. I don't know. In the care home, you do care conferences and they're annually, which I think is ridiculous, but that's a whole other conversation. And um, in those care conferences, they'd sort of rattle off this long list of all of these things. And I'd be sitting there going, frantically trying to write them all down to remember them. And I started asking for the notes after the meeting and holding them accountable because I would read those notes for the next meeting and I was prepared. And I don't know, Lyle and Joe, if you do the same thing when you have to deal with doctors and medical systems, but I have a book, and that book is, I can go all the way back to when things started. Every time a nurse has called me, every time I've dealt with a doctor, medication changes, I know it. I pity the new doctor that comes on board every once in a while because they try to change things and I can actually say no and give them reasons why, right? So it's becoming that educated person you never thought you needed to be. I didn't know what any of these drugs were 5 years ago. Um, so, and it's funny you say podcast because there's one called Let's Not Be Kidding, which is about a gentleman's journey with his mom. And it's a bit more of a humorous approach to it. And I found that very therapeutic for me to be able to see somebody share the joy of their mother's journey with a humor lens, right? Because I had a hard time. My guilt often overshadowed me being able to see the joy in what was going on with my dad. So, Lyle, shall we go to you?
Sure. Yeah, as I already mentioned, Jerry was a top accountant. I never in a million years anticipated this in our future. I had zero education or understanding of what we were facing. And God bless the Alzheimer's Society. They were the first resorts I went to, and I did the same. I did the courses, and I'm in a support group. And the practical information from the courses, plus you're not the only guy. Meeting other people in similar situation. And the care group is just a bright light in my world. Just a highlight of my month. Going and just listening to other people and talking to other people who understand. And we just, in the last month, I had my first week of respite provided by IHA. And that was just wonderful. I had no idea how much stress I was under until I had a week of respite. So yeah, that's a wonderful resource. But the one I really wanted to talk about is there is a company out of the States called Elite Travel and Cruises, dementia-friendly travel.
Wow.
Oh yeah. And we've traveled with her 3 times. The 4th is next month, and the 5th is later on in the year. And she, like the last cruise that we did was last September. We cruised the Norwegian fjords with her. There were 6 patients, 6 Alzheimer's patients. Each came with a caregiver like myself. She had 6 staff. So there were 12 caregivers for 6 patients.
Wow.
She makes sure that every caregiver gets respite every day. She has professional speakers that come, most of them authors. Kathy's company is just a godsend because I'd come to the conclusion, Jerry and I couldn't travel anymore because I can't travel with her alone. And then I, was researching dementia-friendly travel, and I came across Elite Travel, and oh gosh, it is just wonderful.
What an amazing experience that you get to share together too, at a time when maybe you think, to Peter's point and Eileen's point about walking with their mom on her journey, but what an amazing experience that is, Lyle, for you to have with your wife as you continue down this journey. Like, those are moments of joy, right?
Well, and to put it really bluntly, I get to be a husband because they're the caregivers. It is just amazing. It's life-saving.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it's tough. I mean, I was always the CEO you know. I was 30,000 feet. I was, this is what we're doing. I was never nurturing. I was never detail oriented. I was Mr. Make It So, and now I have to do all that. And the last part of the question is there, the rewarding aspects? And yeah, I've had to discover and develop a whole new set of skills. And when you can do that at 70, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
A
Yeah,
lot
I
of,
never thought I would need medical expertise.
yeah,
I've learned a lot more about medicine than I ever thought I wanted to know.
yeah,
And I've
yeah,
also learned to find joy and humor in things that I never thought I would find joy and humor in.
yeah.
When,
And I've developed a patience that I never thought I would have, because we never had kids,
yeah, yeah,
you know. So yeah, it's kind of cool finding a new aspects of your person.